Uncontrollable Chapter 3. Days continue to fly by in a swirl of anger and thoughts too loud to make sense of. The bullying got worse, and it was getting harder and harder not to lash out just to protect Star. Jason seemed like he hadn't forgotten about the comeback. I'm not sure why he took such offense to it, but I could tell he was using it to fuel everything that was happening to us. I pushed them farther, and instead of backing off, it was just fuel to their fire. I had this pit growing in my stomach, like every day was inching closer to the whole world turning on me. I felt myself shaking in classes, focused too deeply on the whispers around me or the ones I'd heard just before class. I tried to shrug it off. Anxiety was never something I'd like to focus on. It was fine, so there was no need to panic over anything. Saturday came by slower every week that passed, probably because I was getting happier and happier to get away from school. But as this morning came around, I could only feel a ping of sadness as I stare up at my roof. There was only a few days left until my birthday. Yeah, I felt sad because my birthday was on a school day. Every year it was ruined by bullies, but it also meant that Mom would tell us to go out more and enjoy the nice weather since it was coming. I tried to ignore the fact that Jason and Devin probably live around here, just for Star's sake, as she tried to lift my spirits. She tried to distract me from my thoughts and make me smile as we hung out. Although, no matter how much fun we were having or how distracted I got, there was always a lingering worry about them finding us. I didn't want to go outside today. I wanted to stay in and sleep and try to go someplace much better than all of this, someplace where I wasn't bullied for being different. I felt if I reached out far enough in my dreams, I'd be able to go to such a place, where I was normal and all my worries wouldn't exist anymore. "Come on, Emma!" I flinched, my body jumping awake out of the dreamlike state I was in as Star called from downstairs. "Let's go out! I had something planned for today, remember?" After a short pause, she comes up the stairs and stands in their doorway looking at me. "Emma?" I couldn't help but keep staring at the roof. My thoughts swam before I forcefully pushed them aside, and pain ran through my temples as I quiet my thoughts. "Yeah, okay," I mumble, sitting up. As I glance around the room, I almost feel disorientated before the noise of a small rock hitting the paneling of our house rings through my ears. The only noise that filled my head. Before another, and then finally, one is tossed through our open window, followed by soft giggling and quiet cheering. Star smiles softly, tossing the rock back out the window before walking over, smiling wider. "Hey, you guys remembered!" Star said, smiling down at our friends who were standing on the sidewalk. Maddie and Cassie looked for pebbles in case they missed, so they wouldn't do any damage, and Ava looked at them with her arms crossed. "Of course we remembered! Why would we forget? If this is the only chance to hang out with you guys before your birthday, of course we're gonna remember," Sierra said, smiling wide. "Now come down here so we can all play." As Star backs from the window and smiles at me, I couldn't help but smile back. It felt forced, but at least she looked happy. "Okay, get ready. I'll wait for you downstairs," Star said, running up the door. I stand up, glancing down at the group of friends outside, sighing and getting ready before I leave the room. As we leave, and we all walk through the field, they started talking about what they could do for Star's birthday. I felt kind of left out, but shrugged it off, smiling that Star was going to get spoiled, and at least I'd be part of it. "Guys, please, you don't have to do so much for us. It's just a birthday." They paused for a moment and glanced between the two of us. Star looked at them confused. "Did I say something wrong?" "Yeah, you said us. I thought Emma was older, but are you guys twins?" Maddie said softly. Star smiles and laughs softly before putting her arm on my shoulder, stretching slightly so she could. "Nope, we're born on the same date, but a year apart. Neat, right? It even saves on party costs." I smile at her, glad she could see the light in it. I continued to calmly walk with them as they continued talking. I felt peaceful just being around them, but anxious to be out in the open. Those kids could be anywhere. "That is neat," Maddie said, jumping in front of Star. "Why didn't you lead with that? I bet that's such a low probability." I chuckled. It felt so odd to do so, like it was forced, but it felt genuine. She glances at me, sticking her tongue out before returning to walk to the side. "I gotta bake twice as many cookies now," Sierra said, smiling. It seemed like she liked the idea of cooking for both of us. She's mentioned her cookies a few times, and I just hope it's not going to be an obsession like Star's pancakes. What about us? You aren't going to make any for us? Cassie said, pouting slightly, hiding a smile that lit up her eyes as she joked. Nah, I don't think I have the energy to cook that many cookies. Sierra laughed as Cassie ran after her. I glanced at Ava, who was smiling softly. Her eyes seemed to sparkle brightly. She was staying quiet and just observing everything. I noticed her glance at me a few times, and every time she did, it felt more and more anxious. Were those kids really who I'm anxious about now? I shook my head, which caught the attention of Star. She looked at me, worried, meeting my gaze. You doing all right, sis? She said softly. I felt a knot in my throat, tears trying to push their way to my eyes. I took in a breath and shrugged, walking past her. Ava was walking a bit ahead of us now, and Maddie had run after Cassie and Sierra. They were playing tag now. You know, if you tell them, maybe... I noticed Ava's eyes glance back at us as Star spoke. No, I say quickly, worriedly glancing between Star and Ava. Please. I pause as she catches my glancing and sighs. I'll tell them when I'm ready. I force a fake smile. Or I won't tell them at all, 'cause it isn't important. She glared at me as I walked ahead. It is important, especially if it keeps making you feel bad. She yelled, running after me. Nah. I mumble, pushing her shoulder softly. She smiles at me. I couldn't read her emotion. Maybe it was something between sadness and worry and her forced optimism. I breathed out a sigh and ran up ahead, smiling back at Ava and Star, who were still behind, joining the others in their game of tag. Come on, slowpokes! Star laughed and chased after me, and Ava followed behind her. We spent most of the afternoon playing tag, chasing clouds, finding out some sort of mix between the two, and creating a freeze tag type of game with the clouds. We caught up on some homework and even played monkey in the middle with a ball Maddie brought. It felt nice to have friends who we could just hang out with. I could almost be myself. After a few hours, most of the group had left. Ava seemed to have a lot of fun. She let down her guard, and I saw her smiling just as much as the others. It was kind of cute to see how much everyone made each other happy. Maddie had waved us goodbye, the last person in our group. Star and I smiled at each other as we watched her walk away. That was a good day, Star says, smiling wide. I nod at her, looking at the sky, taking a moment to smile, feeling my head fill with peaceful thoughts of what happened today. The sun shines on my face, and I felt like I could breathe better than the rest of the day. I felt safe. I open my eyes as I feel a soft push against my shoulder. Looking around, I see Star laughing softly and running off. Hey, get back here, nerd! I yell, laughing and running after her. She always seemed so full of energy, always so happy. She runs off in the alleyways and I race after her. Her laughter made me smile wide as we stopped at a crossroads. Let's go berry picking! Is that why you made me follow you here? I laugh. She jumps up and down happily and nods. Okay, 1 second. I giggle, the soft sunbeams on my back as I try and grab some plastic bags out of my sweater pocket. Since you never carry a watch... I roll my eyes and stick my tongue out at her as she talks. I'll call out every 15 minutes to let you know what time it is, and so we know how far we wander from each other. She smiles and grabs the bag from me. Okay, that's a good idea. I don't want us on 2 different blocks. I laugh and turn to head off in my direction as she heads off in hers. I hummed a soft melody as the alleyways got quiet, subconsciously making sure I was calm and grounded. I passed by a few apple trees. Crab apples were such a pretty red this time of year, not as sour as Star liked. I was able to grab a few, but I felt a chill run down my spine as the thought of turning into my demon form just to grab some better ones on a higher branch ran through my head. I settled for focusing on the raspberry bushes that grew around here. There were a lot of them holding perfectly ripe berries that haven't even been touched yet. I smile as I hear Star call out. We haven't wandered too far from each other yet. After about 45 more minutes, I was standing there, smiling as some sunbeams hit my face. I put my bag of berries on the ground and stretched. I knew it was about time Star would call out. After the second time, it was easy to guess how long 15 minutes was. And she wasn't too far last time. I paused and listened to the chirping of songbirds, the barking of dogs far off in the distance, the whirring of cars on the main street a few houses away. I felt my heart slowly reach my throat as my anxiety rose. The sunbeams that passed over my face faded. The songbirds seemed to be blocked out by crows, and the barking of dogs got louder. Everything that filled my ears only made things worse because none of everything I heard was what I wanted to. "Starine?" I yell, trying to keep my anxiety down as I look around, trying to hear her call back. I waited, at first hopeful as the seconds passed, like she would call out and my anxiety would be all for nothing, as per usual. But she didn't call back. "Starine!" I yell, a bit louder, walking towards where I last heard her voice. I leave my bag of berries behind me as I start running. My feet hit the hard cement and caused pain through my body as I worriedly searched for her. "Starine, come on, where are you?" I yell, my voice getting trapped in my throat as a knot forms, a scream wanting to make its way through. I could hear my footsteps, loud in my head, fear burning its way to the surface. Just as I had the final thought to turn in my demon form and fly above the houses to find her, I could hear her call out just a few houses away. I sprinted towards where I heard her. "Come on, you're no fun," I heard one voice say as I came closer. "Didn't I tell you not to make sure she could call out?" "It's not my fault, she stomped on my foot." A whiny, smaller voice snapped back at the voice. "Shut up, she's coming." The first voice sounded all too familiar as I came around a corner. Quick footsteps scattered before my eyes adjusted to the scene in front of me. My eyes stared into stars with worry as I see her pinned against a wall. Jason held his hand over her mouth. Star's eyes stared at me with fear. I took a step closer, my worry only growing as her eyes pleaded with me to run. But like hell I wasn't gonna let my own sister get hurt and just run away. I take another step towards her. My hands burned, protective hellfire trying to form on my fingertips. Let her go. I take another step in, and I could only glance at the gleam of a metal pole before it struck me. Pain shoots through my spine, a scream of pain escapes my lungs as I collapse, falling to my knees with pain pulsing through my blood. A rush of magic flowed quickly to heal the area where I was hit. I felt a tingling sensation through my legs before the feeling slowly returned. I was breathing heavy, staring at the pavement below me as my buckled arms held me up. I could hear laughter around me, the two male voices filling my ears and making my blood boil. I take a sharp breath in, glaring upwards as I see Devon standing beside Jason now. He held the bat in front of Star, glaring down at me with a smirk plastered on his face. I could feel my body shaking as I tried to contain how badly I wanted to wipe that smirk off his face. One good punch would do the trick, and do it well. "God damn it," I groaned, shaking my head and standing up. I could see Devon's eyes widen, knowing full well that it shouldn't have left me standing afterwards. I stretched my neck a bit, getting a rush of blood to my head. I saw fear in Star's eyes as she stared at me. "Get the hell away from her," I say lowly. Jason gave me a pushy smirk and widened his stance. He passed Devon a bat, which he wound up, glaring at me as his eyes seemed to gleam with hatred. I shifted my foot, bending my knees as I met his glare. He only took this as a challenge as he swung, and like hell I was going to let him hurt Star. "Emma!" In a blink, I was standing in front of Star, taking the hit for her, resting my arm on the fence behind her, careful not to hurt her as the metal pole hit my shoulder. I winced in pain, anger bringing a dark glow to my eyes. Star seemed to only get more scared as I accidentally met her gaze. The whites of my eyes were overcome with black, as dark as a void. The color in my eyes glowed as my power built. Keeping it under control was getting to be too much. I look away from her, forcing my eyes back to normal. My hands burned, and pain shot through my veins as magic fought with my body. Devon stood there, shocked as I met his eyes. I grabbed the bat from his hands and tugged it out of his grasp. "Emma, please, it's okay. Can we go? I don't want anyone hurt." Star whined softly, worried for my powers as she glanced between us all. I felt the metal bend under my grip as I threw it to the ground and pushed Devon back. "What the hell do you think you're doing picking on my sister? And what the hell do you think gives you the right?" I felt Star grab my hand softly before flinching and drawing it back. I was doing a terrible job keeping my fire at bay. The easiest protective measure I have. It made my hands hot, and if it wasn't for the magic flowing through my veins, it would be charring my own skin from the inside out. I saw panic grow in Devon's eyes. Jason had stepped closer, his fists balled, unaware of how my eyes returned to their darkened state. Devon couldn't tear his gaze away, staring into my eyes as fear grew in his. "Please!" Star yelled, pulling my arm softly. I closed my eyes as this build-up of anger had nowhere else to go. I yelled and punched the wall beside Devon. The sharp, rocky texture of the garage it was to scraped up my hand, but more damage was to the wall. It was like a boulder was thrown at it, a crater made by my fist and cracks splitting outwards about a meter across. "If I ever see you touch her again, I swear to all things unholy, you will regret it." I turned away from him, glaring at Jason, who had raised his fist. He met my eyes and immediately stepped back. Star quickly walked ahead, wanting to take a moment to get out of the corner she was crowded into. And I could hear a single pair of footsteps coming this way. I groaned and put my hood up, knowing full well I couldn't change my eyes back just yet. The anger was bubbling through my blood. "Emma, are you okay?" I felt Star place her arm on my shoulder. I groaned and moved my hair over my eyes as a headache formed, building quickly the more I tried to hold back. "Yeah." "Emma? Starian?" I could hear Ava's voice call out as footsteps approached closer. "Where are you guys?" She seemed panicked. Star walked ahead a bit, barely turning the corner before Ava comes running around, almost crashing into her. I glanced back at Devon and Jason, who were staring at each other, and the crater I caused in the wall. "Oh, thank God you guys are okay! I thought I heard you guys screaming. You are okay, right?" Ava seemed more worried about Star than me. I weakly smiled, walking up to her and gesturing to the boys behind us. "Oh." She turned and talked to Star, double-checking if she was okay and what happened. I tuned it all out as my headache grew. I could only feel pressure behind my eyes. "But I'm allowed to stay," Ava said louder, getting my attention. She smiled at me and continued, "I heard you yell Star's name on the way back, and I couldn't find you guys until I heard a really loud crashing noise." I groaned, knowing it was me punching the wall. "I'm so glad you guys aren't hurt." Ava's voice was ringing through my ears. "It's so loud." I saw her glance towards me as I rubbed my temples, quickly taking a double take and staring at me. "Are you okay?" she said. Her tune seemed to change as she looked at me. "Yeah, my head just hurts, and my spine for that matter." Star looked at me worried. Her eyes went over my body, glancing at my back. It was healed, but the pain was still there and would be for a little while longer. "Then what's with your eyes?" she said, her voice low as she leaned closer to me. I felt a shiver go through my spine as I met her eyes for a second. I saw Star in my peripheral. She looked scared, but in a worried way, like she was anxious for me. I closed my eyes tight, the headache pulsing through my head as I forced what power was growing back down into nothing. It just happens when I'm angry sometimes. I'm okay, though. I should probably head home, though, just to make sure. I tried to act like it was normal. Like I was normal. "How did you make them change back?" "Are you sure you're okay? You look like you're in pain," Ava said, walking in front of me, again with the questions that just seemed off, words screaming in my head. God, what if she knew? "Ava, lay off, will you?" I flinched as Star walks between us. "She's probably sore from protecting me. Can we just get out of here?" Ava paused and glanced back at the boys before skipping ahead of us, smiling like nothing was wrong. She didn't even seem worried about me. Star, on the other hand, looked at me with such worry in her eyes. "Thank you," I whispered as I walked beside her, as we walked alongside Ava. The headache wasn't going away, and it was getting harder to control my anger with it. It was a circle of being in pain over the headache, getting mad about the pain, having to force down the power that built up because of that anger, just for it to circle back to being even more pain. "Guys," I say, quietly as we leave the alleyway. As they look at me, I forced a soft smile. "I'm gonna head home. I'm not feeling well. I'm glad you can stay out more, Ava, but I'm really sorry. I rubbed the back of my head softly. So, I'm gonna go. Star frowned softly. But I'm sure Star can stay out longer, and I'm sure I'll be okay, so there's no need to worry. Smiling was getting harder. Okay, well, goodbye, Ava said, smiling and moving out of the way so I could start heading in the direction of my house. Oh, Star, what was that about your art? You were mentioning it before I had to go home. Star didn't respond for a little while. I glanced back at her, watching me worriedly. As I met her eye, she seemed to tear up slightly. I know once I started walking away again, I gave up this happy front. I felt the pain in my head take over me, and anger and pain ripped through my face. I turned away and kept walking, not wanting to dwell and make her even more sad. Star? Ava said, getting her attention. Oh, sorry, yeah. I'm getting better at it, and I learned a new way to sketch the lines, so they're softer at the end. Star replied. She didn't seem happy, but at least she didn't seem so sad.